person that you're grateful for. If you can put on your videos, please do put on your videos now. Please do put on your videos now. Put your right hand on your chest and take a few minutes, few seconds. Think about one thing or one person that you're grateful for, and think about why you are grateful for that person, or why you're grateful for that one thing. Notice how you feel. Notice how you feel, and then I will take the first poll. Can we have the first poll, please? Let's take the first poll.
Mine came up.
Can you?
I had it.
Oh, please go ahead. Thank you.
There should be some results coming in.
Is the poll coming up now? Is the poll up?
Yeah, it's up. The poll is up.
Okay. Please take your first poll. And while you're taking your first poll, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jeff Carter. He's a freelance educationist. He's a learning architect of over 25 years, experience in education, working at different, he's worked at 8 different countries, and he's, developed curriculum for 10 different countries. He's taught students, in 25 different countries. Wow, you are an international, educator. I'm always blown away with that, and he's taught children right from grade 4, 5, 6, and now, he's been a head teacher. He's just everywhere. I was so blown away with his very short and very, powerful introduction, bio when I met him on LinkedIn. And please welcome with me, Mr. Jeff Carter. And coming on newly on the screen, I just thought to myself, what do I do differently this time? And, I sort of got that weakness that I should begin to get some of the young people who are interested in training to get a hang of this, particularly how it is online. I know they've been online and they're very tech savvy, but how does this whole thing work, And one of the person that I've always been on her case, I would say, is Miss Tracy Ubeku. Miss Tracy Ubeku is a professional educator, and she's the founder of Nine Rock Education. She earned her postgraduate certificate in education from the University of Sutherland, the UK. She's, she has 10 years teaching experience, and she's been with me on, traditional training settings for, in early childhood education. She was my deputy for about 5 years before I left Nigeria. In fact, she was my last deputy before I left Nigeria. And she also believes in what I believe in, continuing professional development. Please welcome Miss Tracy Ubeku. Now I'll hand it over to Mr. Jeff. Please take it over from here.
Okay, so
can I stop sharing my screen so that you can?
No, keep.
All right.
We need that to stay up for a second. When I have you take it down, I'll tell you. So there's a number of issues we're going to talk about here. We've got a small enough group that your needs and experience can sort of shape the direction we're going to go. So if you haven't done it already, I'll remind people to please, in the chat room, quickly introduce yourself, where you're from, and what age you're teaching, so that we know sort of how to tailor it. So if you haven't done your own self-introduction in the chat room, please do that. Now, one of the topics that came up a lot in our last discussion a month ago, and coming up again here in the title, is about how do you know students are actually engaged in what you're doing? Now, I'm not sure if you use Zoom, and I guess that's another thing I would love people to put in their introduction is what technologies or portals are you using a lot these days? Are you using Zoom? Are you using an LMS? Are you using Google Classroom? Are you using social media? So if you could also put that in the chat, I'd love to get that sort of information, because again, then we can sort of tailor make what you need. But if you're using something like a Zoom for trying to do your classes, and if you've got a large class, sometimes it's hard to know if the students are engaged. Sometimes students' cameras are on, sometimes students' cameras are off. I did a large corporate training a couple of months ago. I've been in Thailand for a year, but about a month ago, I moved to another part, but I did a large corporate training. It was 6 hours every day, like 3 hours straight, and then lunch, and then another 3 hours straight. It was pretty intense, really hard on the instructor, really hard on the students. Okay. But it was funny because, oh, Microsoft Teams. Okay. Zoom and social media. Great. One of the interesting things is, because this was right in the middle of the major lockdown here, but this was a government agency. So some of the staff were at the office, and a lot of them were at home. And so some of them had their cameras on, some of them didn't have their cameras on, or it was on for part of it and off for part of it. And so for the first day I was doing it, I got very frustrated about knowing who was actually there, who was listening, who was engaged, etc. So I started using the chat room from day 2 on quite a bit. So we're going to do another poll, but we're going to do a different kind of poll here. And this is what I started to use with the chat room. So you'll see today's highlights. We've got 3 main sort of topics here. The first one is challenges with virtual classroom management. And you see the word management. You see the word management highlighted in red. The second one is managing virtual classroom control with limited resources. This is also a huge and very interesting topic, because we can look at many different ways to try and get around that. And so you see resources is in red. And the third one is challenges with student assessment online and demand. And you see assessment is in red. So we're going to do a different kind of poll. And what I'm going to ask you to do in the general chat room really quickly here is, which one of these 3 is most important to you? And just use the word in red. So if it's the first one, just write in management. If it's the second one, just write in resources. If it's the third one, just write in assessment. So right now, can everybody quickly in the general chat room write in which of these 3 is most important for you? The management, or the limited resources, or assessment? And yes, I will wait till everybody's done. Well, it can't be both, because there's 3. Have to choose one. One, two, three, four, 5. Anything more? So we have a lot of assessments. Okay, so I'm doing this as a bit of a demonstration, because what this did for me is I started doing little tasks. And okay, thank you. Another one, resources. I started doing little tasks and little polls like this at sort of impromptu and on the spur of the moment, just to make sure or who was really tuned in and who wasn't. Because the poll prompts you to do something. If your microphone is off and your video is off, and you're doing other stuff, if the poll comes up, you know you're supposed to do. But if there was no poll, and you had to be listening to me to react, then you would know who was really engaged. So this is how I did mini engagement attendance sessions or activities throughout the day when I was using something like Zoom or any social media that has a chat room to the side. Sometimes I would have them do it. If it was really specific, I would have them send it to me directly in the chat, because that means then they can't see everybody else's answers. They are having to send it directly to me in the chat. So that's another even more specific way to find out who's really engaged and who is not. So this poll, it's very interesting because the majority is around assessment, really has to do with how to know is actually the first one. How to know and manage your group if you've got, especially a large group, and you've got people who do or don't have their cameras on, because you've got your student list, right? Your class list, and you can quickly compare that to the chat room list and names there. Or if you have a helper involved, then you can also do that part as well. So because you can change the length of your chat room on your computer if you're using, especially if you're using a larger screen, so you can see all the way down. Okay, very interesting. So we see that, so we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 responses. And I don't see that anybody has said it twice. And so I can see who's engaged, but also who is really interested in what. Now, if I have a class of 50, obviously this takes a little bit more work and time and focus, but this is one way throughout a class to quickly see who's listening and who's engaged. Or if you've got a very important concept that you're trying to get across and you want to make sure everyone's got it, in the classroom, you might say, okay, everybody understand? Everybody got it? Which most of the students usually say, yeah, whether they do or not. Okay, so this is one way to say, okay, so what was the most important point that I just said? And if they go in and put it in, then you'd be able to see who got it and who didn't, especially if you had them do it to you as an individual. So quick demonstration here just on how to use, at least for Zoom and some of the others, a real chat, how to use chat room to deal with some classroom management. Wow. So a lot around, a little bit around resources, but a ton of things around assessment. I'm going to ask people something even more specific then. Can you, in the, again, the general chat room, what is it about assessments that you are finding really challenging in the digital domain or online environment? So if you could just put it in one short sentence or a few words, what is it about assessments that you're finding really challenging? Okay, so in the chat room, just, oh, preschoolers. Ooh. That's like a doctoral dissertation, I think, right there. How to assess preschoolers online. My goodness. Okay. Oh, okay. Some others who answered assessment? But while people are doing this, we could probably move on to the next slide. Okay, so we will come around to we'll probably end up coming full circle to talk about a lot about assessment. We're going to take each one of these main topics here and break it down. I'm going to do very short introduction, and then Tracy's going to talk about it. I think what we're probably going to end up doing, Tracy can really focus on sort of preschool, primary, what has worked for her, and then maybe I'll focus on a little bit of the older student, high school, college sort of stuff, and see how some of that overlaps. So the first one, what I find interesting about the question here is this idea of distraction in the first point there, right? How do you think educators and parents can help minimize distractions during a virtual session? Well, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, which is a long time ago, but when I was a kid, either elementary school or high school, even I used to multitask, and that was long before we had phones. You know, whether it was TV, whether it was LPs, music in the background, whether it was on the phone, the old-fashioned dial phone. But you know what I mean? We were able to multitask. And so I'm not sure how you can not, how can I put this? I'm not even sure if that is possible to sort of minimize distractions without sort of being a big stick sort of over top of, at least with the older kids. Maybe Tracy, you can chat a little bit about what can or can't work best for preschool and primary.
Okay, so again, with like we have always encouraged parents to do, like how we've always encouraged parents, we always encourage parents to think about the educating of their children as a partnership. So if we're going to be doing online or virtual classes with children, we would expect some encouragement from the parents. In the first place, I believe parents should help children get used to fall into the routine of online. It's new, it's relatively new to everybody. So parents should help children to prepare for online, adapt to this new technique. One, I would say, setting up an area in the house which is specifically for learning. So they know this, so it's basically like a home classroom, and the children respect that that's what that part is for, and they know that when they go in there, that is what's going to be happening there. I also believe there should be supervision with young children as usual. While there's a teacher online speaking, there should also be some adults somewhere in the background, not necessarily in the way of learning, but just there to ensure that the child is following, is going on with is going on with the lessons. And with so things I feel that teachers could also do on their own part is with young children are visual learners. So when you work with softwares and apps for learning, for teaching, I think you should look out for those ones who can help you to, where you could make, with flexibility, where you can make changes to, say, like the background. Children are visual learners, so make it look fun. Make your background look inviting, your classroom, make it look inviting. And with children, pretty much, it's the same things we do with a physical classroom. Also, I believe you keep them motivated. You have to look for ways to keep them engaged and capture their attention and maintain their attention. You have to think about ways of doing that. You have to have brain breaks in between. You can, so you have to think about how you manage your time with them. It shouldn't be a very long run. Young children have short attention span, so it shouldn't be just a long run. You should have brain breaks and some fun thing that they can do in between. Just kind of like how we started this.
Oh, Tracy, you there? Oh, I guess we have a bit of a connection problem. Okay, well, I'll sort of continue on a bit with, can everybody else hear me okay? Yes, no?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can
Okay,
hear you.
okay.
Okay.
Tracy, are you there?
I think
Okay.
she got stuck. Maybe
Yeah, okay, no,
internet is
I'll go on, I'll go on
discontinued.
for a bit until
Yeah.
she comes back.
Yeah.
I think one of the most important pieces she said there, and this would go for older students too, in some respects, is that not just the routine, but a real physical space. And so, you know, for a younger learner, having literally the little desk, the little area, the tiny classroom thing. And if you get a chance, I don't know if you noticed the quote on the, can we just go back one slide to the Maria Montessori quote? If possible. I spent some time a while back looking at what are Montessori teachers doing during COVID, because Montessori is such a hands-on learning, especially with younger learners. It's so hands-on in discovery. And though it's a fair amount of work, parents are turning a part of their house, their garage, whatever it is, into like a tiny Montessori classroom with a lot of the little hands-on things. And I've seen pictures of people, you know, parents in India who have used just basic colored colored paper to make different sizes and to make sort of counting boards and all kinds of other things. And so it's amazing what you can actually find around the house to simulate what normally would sort of happen in the classroom. Okay, so now we can go back to the next, go back to the 3-question slide. So I'll talk a little bit about older students. And again, I think the routine part is very true. If you are going to have older students, try and have a firm start time. Try and have something up that gets the early, because you're always going to have some students that are going to be there early, just like in the classroom. You're going to have some students that are going to show up just as the door is closing, just like in the classroom. So put something up on the screen, maybe a quote, maybe an interesting fact that has to do with the topic you're going to deal with, so that is there and it's drawing their attention in right away. You know, Tracy talking about having an interesting background, unlike what I've got, which is plain white. But in this case, it would be an interesting slide or maybe a short YouTube video that is going to show that it's going to engage people right away, that has to do with the topic, so that students are immediately engaged. I think to now look at more of a macro view of this is, if anything else, what has happened over the last number of months around the world with education settings is, oh, welcome back, Tracy. I'll finish off and then we'll come back to let you finish. All these massive amount of objectives that we thought were really important, that learners of all ages are supposed to know, has been thrown out the window because there just hasn't been time. So this past year in Thailand, where I've been, COVID hit just as we were finishing the school year. So we were able to get the school done, even at elementary or primary level, we were able to get the exams done. The problem is school started 2 months late. It was supposed to be May 1st, it started July 1st. And so far, luckily, knock on, yes, I actually have a wood table, knock on wood, we haven't had any outbreaks, new outbreaks or second wave here, much like many other countries have. Now, and I'm not sure the school year in West Africa there, but in the US and Canada, they lost the last 2 or 3 months of a year. So if you were grade 6 or grade 8 or grade 12, going on to the next level of school, you lost a huge chunk. Now, does that mean we're going to make all of those students repeat the year? No. So what does that mean about these massive amount of objectives that we all thought we had to get students across? Basically, what I'm saying is, if nothing else, this is really making us have to rethink and look at fundamentally, what is it in a certain amount of time students really need to know or grasp in order for them to move on and become competent. For example, if you're going on a trip and you're used to taking 2 suitcases and now you can only take 1, and you have to now start figuring out what of all my stuff is the most important for me to take. This is what I'm talking about in terms of our outcomes. Now, yes, if you're working for a school district, the school district is going to say, this is what it's supposed to be. However, we've just seen that school districts have made a lot of allowances in this last year or in the last 6 months because of what's happened. And in certain countries, it is just going to get worse. The US will have a massive second wave in the fall once things open up. So it's not going to change anytime soon. Okay, I'm going to stop there for a second. And then Tracy, did you want to sort of, so you talked about the, a very specific place to be at, about getting support from some sort of adult in the room, about getting into a routine. Was there 2 or 3 things that you wanted to finish off with? Your microphone.
Tracy, are you there?
Yeah, she's there, but Tracy, unmute your microphone. There we go.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, so it was pretty much about that, so both the teacher has to be prepared. If the teacher is coming into an online classroom, you don't want to, you need to be prepared. So you're not leaving time, you're not leaving spaces where the children are like blank and like, okay, so what's next? You need to keep it going. And you have somebody at the background. And within typical physical classrooms where you have attention grabbers, fun things, you just keep it fun for younger children. You have attention grabbers, you say something funny, they respond, you get their attention, you try and get back on track. But what I would say overall is keep it straight to the point and brief, because they have a short attention span. So be prepared with your materials and what you want to say in that period of time. Get to the point, make it fun while you do, and then go offline. Give them some screen-free study practice, study practice to do. And their parents should also have ways of communicating back to you. You should always make sure you have clear communication times and methods that the parents can get back to you in case along the line during the course of the day there's some feedback or some challenge they may be having, and so you can communicate and you can think of how to help the particular child from there.
Okay, excellent. So the last thing I'll add in this particular topic for older students is context. In other words, I don't know how you were in high school, but I was constantly asking myself, why do I need to know this? How is this going to help me? Now, I'll give you some background. I was a math and physics guy, so that stuff I loved anyway, and was just into it. However, I hated English literature because at the time I really didn't understand it, or I couldn't understand how this is going to help me in my life. Now, years later, I look back and see how it has. But what I found in high school, when I was in high school, there was no context to why I was having to learn the certain things I was learning. So with your students, how are you able to give them context to why something is really important for them to learn? And a second or a third language is a great example. So when I was in high school, we needed to have a second language. Yeah, I'm Canadian, which means I was supposed to know French, which I don't. But no one, but my high school offered Spanish. And I thought, well, why would I want to know Spanish? All it would have taken is for some teacher to say, hey, Jeff, do you know that Spanish is spoken in like 30 plus different countries around the world? So if you ever want to travel, it'd be a great language to have. That alone probably would have sparked me enough to want to get involved and learn Spanish, which I'm now learning through Duolingo. Learn Spanish so that it had some context to me other than it was a graduation requirement, because that's what we use a lot in the classroom. Well, you need this for the test. You need this for the exam. You need this to graduate, right? But when kids are at home, that same classroom control or mentality just isn't going to work. And that's where we need to sort of make a shift to these kinds of things. Comments or questions at this point in time? I know that's probably not how we wanted to do it, but anything about what we've just talked about? We will get on to assessment shortly here. I'm not a telenovela person, but I get the point. I have occasionally seen them as I've been scrolling through. Okay, so now we will touch on a lot of the assessment pieces now when we start talking about software. So I'm going to ask you to stop sharing your screen because there's something I want to bring up quick. You see this?
Yes.
Okay, the three people.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I wanted to quickly talk about here is just technology. And my experience over the years is not just with teachers, but with all kinds of people, is you have three different kinds of people when it comes to technology. You have the green, which is the early adopters, the people who jump onto new technologies and become very tech savvy. This is a small group. You have the yellow group that is, okay, then you have the yellow, or we'll go to the far end, the red group, which is usually the older group, and we'll talk specifically about teachers, and very much old school thinking. And then you have the middle group who are open-minded to technology once they see how that can work for them and can be quite tech savvy with training. And so one of the things why I wanted to say this is because of all of the new technologies that are coming out, we really need to be aware of what we're getting into and how effective it's going to be. And specifically, I'll talk now about assessments. So Zoom, if you use Zoom, you now realize is absolutely useless for doing any kind of assessment because it's not an LMS. It is just a communication tool. So you're going to need to be tapped into some sort of LMS or Google Classrooms, or there are some other things. I think Edmodo is another one. So there's a few things out there you can use with Zoom. Now, what has actually happened recently is Google has now beefed up its meetings and its internal chats so that it basically operates like a Zoom. So within Google Classroom, you can have everything set up. You can use its own, you can do a certain amount of assessments through Google Forms, but there's a lot of things you can do through the Google Classrooms. But here's the thing, whatever portal you're going to use for assessments, you really need to spend some time with it. What kind of question types does it have? If it only has multiple choice, true, false, and fill in the blank, then you're really limited to what you can do in terms of testing. You need to find something that's going to have some dynamic impact so that you can do all kinds of different kinds of testing and assessment purposes. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about software, and I'll come back to talk more about the older group, but I'm going to let Tracy now talk about, and specifically one of the questions we saw earlier about how can you assess preschoolers, or what are some of the best software to assess preschoolers? Tracy.
Unmute yourself. I think
As we talk about tech savvy people.
keep yourself
So sorry.
unmuted.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So I'm still trying to get the hang of all of this.
I know.
With we haven't really been doing much. So I would my last position was head of a pre-nursery school. So we haven't really been doing much with online classes for the toddlers, but I particularly like the Google Classrooms because it's got different kind of add-ons that you could use to explore and do different things. So yeah, I don't know. I would go with, I would rather, I'm still learning, but I find Google Classroom a little bit more flexible in terms of for assessment, because they have all sorts of add-ons that you can use to do this. So yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Tracy.
I think if I can come in there as well, I think teachers need to explore other possibilities. I know there's Canvas, there's Blackboard, that, you know, most Nigerian schools are not familiar with. Jeff, can you talk a little bit about that? You know, other options that that are out there that are not that most, and I know that most private schools in Nigeria do Edmodo and Google Classroom. And I think Microsoft is trying to come up with something as well, you know, but the best right now for Nigeria that most of them use is Google Classroom. Well, there are other options.
Because it's free, right?
Yes.
like that. No, it's free. It's free, but if you're using it through something called G Suite, where the school is actually registered with Google, then there's also a lot more.
Someone is saying Go Formative. There's somebody's sharing Go Formative.
Yes. Okay. So if you're using it through G Suite, where the school has actually had to register with Google, you will have a lot more security options than if you're just trying to do it yourself.
Yes.
So what is pretty cool with, well, hold on. I'm going to stop a second, move back a bit, and we'll go back to, or one of the question here, which is the best tool or app? I think you first need to ask yourself, what is it you're really trying to assess?
Yeah.
Are you assessing knowledge? Are you assessing a skill? Are you assessing a processing? Are you assessing like a conceptual concept, like a philosophy course? Or are you assessing math, which is fairly simple in terms of yes or no, or like a right or wrong answer if it's the formula. But if it's a word problem, are you wanting them to be able to actually write the answer? And are you checking the grammar as well as the formula and the answer? So I think you really need to think about what is it that is the best way get the feedback of, or to get the assessment. So, and I'm going to go back to something Tracy said in the very beginning. I saw some really brilliant young teachers, of science teachers, of young students who turned their kitchen, was their not their backdrop, but they turned their kitchen into their little science lab. And they had the students doing obviously very safe experiments because they couldn't have them messing around with too many things. But again, here's where you go to, if he prepped the parents well enough, you could have that little classroom area that you cornered off, even have like a plastic drop cloth for if you're going to start messing around with water or liquids or that kind of thing, right? Because it will get messy. But this guy had his kitchen as a science lab, and he had the students doing experiments at home so that he could actually see, right? And he could feedback with. So I know someone said something about how can we assess like a vocational skill or something that we need to observe. There are ways to do that, but it is a little more challenging. And you know, one of the questions later on is going to be about, for younger students, how can we assess handwriting? Again, there are some ways to do it, but you've got to be a little more creative in what you're going to ask them to do and how you're going to ask them to shoot it and film it or take a picture of it in order to send it to you. So the other question you need to ask yourself is all of your class going to be like this, where you are talking and you're having them do something? Or I really want you to start thinking about this idea of a flipped classroom. In other words, if you've got a so-called 50-minute time slot, are they supposed to have done some pre-reading on YouTube or a sheet or a worksheet? Is there something they're supposed to have done beforehand? If yes, what is the likelihood that that's actually going to get done? Okay, so if we know it's probably not going to get done, maybe the first 10 minutes or 5 minutes of my 50 minutes will be that YouTube clip. So here's the pre-reading and the engagement spark or the hook that's going to bring them in. Then maybe I'm going to talk a little bit, and then as Tracy said, even with older students, their attention span isn't much better than a 3, 4, 5-year-old. Okay, so you know, get them doing stuff. Now, if you're in a Zoom, you can use the groups, right? You can put them into breakout rooms and have them doing a project or small assignments that you can then pop into and look at. If you're using Google Classroom, you can have them either work as a team on a document or have them all work on a document, because within Google Classroom, when they're doing it live, you as a teacher actually see all of their documents in front of you, and you can open each one and go in and comment on or make corrections in real time. Or you can even share the one for everybody to see, okay? So it really depends on what your class is going to be and how you want to assess. Now, an LMS gives you everything except the Zoom experience. It gives you the much better questions. It gives you the much better assessment options. It gives you much more analytic detail in the background. The only one that gives you everything is Blackboard, because it is the Cadillac of LMS, but it costs like a Cadillac.
Yes.
Okay, it is an amazing tool, but it is bloody expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, and so a lot, you know, major universities sort of some use it because it has a Zoom function. It has a real time like this. Now you heard our host talk about how once COVID hit and Zoom went like this, every other technology group began to think about, okay, what do we need to do to try and cash in on this? So Microsoft tried to build out their teams. Google tried to build out their meetings. Other companies came to the forefront of, oh, here's this great technology, or here's this great technology. Problem is, a lot of these newer technologies aren't necessarily going to have, or they're not really education based. They're just looking to try and capitalize on the technology market as it is now. Mm-hmm. But yes, Canvas and Moodle and a few others, there's like a 2-tier version. There's a free version that actually gives you a fair amount of options, but the paid version, which really isn't that expensive per student, but their business model sucks if you're using a short course. The paid version just gives you more question options, but more analytics in the background. So Moodle and Canvas have a free version, which is pretty strong. But then if you pay a little bit more, you can actually get access to. So yes, They are much cheaper than Blackboard. They don't give you everything. Obviously, you're driving a Ford Taurus as opposed to a Cadillac. So you're not going to have everything, and people aren't going to go, wow, look at that. But it's going to be very functional. However, the learning curve of using an LMS is much higher than using a Zoom or a Google Classroom. So any technology you're going to use, and here's the biggest problem that a lot of schools are having right now, is teachers have been thrown into this situation without any training and basically said, here, go do it. And so many teachers are having to figure out so much stuff. So that's why we're doing these kind of sessions, because people have been thrown into this. So school districts, I think, looking forward, realizing COVID's not going away anytime soon, are trying to put together better options or better support services for teachers. A couple of sort of strange support things to think about is, if you go back to my little PowerPoint there of the green, the yellow, and the red person, is you've got a lot of young teachers who are very tech savvy, but don't necessarily know a lot of the content. You've got some amazing older teachers who know all the content, but maybe are a little afraid of the technology. So is there a way we can bring some of them together? Or better yet, we've got an entire group of, university education students who need to do their practicum but can't because of COVID. Can we start putting these university students, education students who need to do their practicum with some of these older teachers, because the students will know the technology, the teachers will know the content, they can both learn from each other. To me, this is a great way that school districts should start moving forward. The middle people with some support from the district can quickly learn some of the technology. The younger teachers who are really good with this, or if you're in a district and you're really good with this, maybe you should be using, or they should be using you as a prototype, or can you take your lesson as a template and make it available for other teachers to use, where they can just take the concept and put it in. So if it's the flipped classroom, what's the start that they're supposed to have in the beginning? How much interaction are you going to have in that 50 minutes? And then is 10 or 20 minutes in the middle going to be interactive work where they're working in a group? And then you're going to do the last 10 minutes of to sort of sum up stuff. So I think a lot of this is and I'll go back to what I said in the beginning about rethinking your class. What is it that they really need to learn? And given the current situation, what's the best way they can learn it? Then you structure your entire lesson segments around that. Then you start to look at the technology that best supports it. Okay, so if you have control of that, you can do those things. If the district is mandating to you what you're supposed to do, then you're maybe a little bit stuck and you might have to try and fit the square peg in the round hole as such, right? So that's where we're at sort of with technology. There is no one answer fits all, or at least that's not affordable. So any other technology sort of questions here before we move on? So we talked about Canvas. Yeah, this to me, this is the era of collaboration.
Yep.
It truly is. And so can we just take off the stop your screen sharing? There's a couple of things I want to bring up quick.
Okay.
And I'll put these in. So yes, I'm going to do some sort of shameless self-promotion here. So here, this is my YouTube channel, Curiosity Cubed. I'll put some links in a second. So there's a series of 5 that I did here. And funny enough, I made these before COVID. but because I knew it was needed. And so there's a series of 5 keys to engagement, and you'll see there is one here just on assessments. So I will put the link to the first one in the chat room later on. But there's another thing that I've got on here. Let me see if I can find it quick. This one. I'm obviously not going to play it. Stop. 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 Go on, go through. Go through. Oh, come on. Welcome to video. Okay, so I'm going to stop it there. But basically, this is called what if school could not open until September 2021? And when I've said this in groups like this, the teachers, all the teachers just sort of go, oh, are you insane? What would happen? But the whole video is about something called content curation and how we need to be putting, so here's an example of grade 5 fractions of where if we can curate all kinds of content that is needed by everyone in the district that needs to do grade 5 fractions classes, then they can come, teachers can come and grab certain stuff they need from one central location instead of forcing 50 or 100 or 300 teachers to have to go and do all of the lessons themselves. So this whole thing is about content creation. I'll put it, let me copy it and put it into the thing right now. But really this is the era truly of content creation and collaboration of teachers. And this is why I was saying about potentially best practice stuff, because what someone finds working for them for a certain group needs to start sharing that with either situations like this or with other teachers in their district. Tracy, comments about the collaboration idea?
Okay, so no man is an island. No man is an island. So yeah, we will definitely benefit greatly from, I particularly have been going online, doing a lot of research, seeing what other people are doing. So we learn from each other. I mean, so I've attended some webinars to learn something new. I'm here today as a co-moderator, but I'm learning a whole lot more things too. So I think at this point, teachers really, really need to support each other with a lot of things. And collaboration being one of the ways you could develop yourself as a teacher or as an educator. You can't, so much is out there that you can't grasp it all at once. You can't know it all at once. So a bit of collaboration could help. You'll be sharing what you have, what you have discovered and what has worked for you, and you'll be learning new things. And learning never ends. It never ends. So there's always something to learn. Here as a co-moderator, and I've learned tons of things already. So yeah, I encourage teachers to work together, seek each other out and work together, collaborate too.
Right. So I'm just
coming there as well. Teacher pair group teams is one of the ideas that I have that I'll be sharing with us also at the end of this. I would like you to pair up with, Jeff is in Thailand, Tracy is in Nigeria. We're talking borderlessness. That you can collaborate with anybody, anywhere. I've been looking for a digital marketer, and I've just decided, you know what? I'm going to look for somebody outside, way up my scope that is really, tech savvy and all the way, because I was focusing on Nigeria. But now I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to go outside because, I'm collaborating with Jeff in Thailand. Tracy, my mentee, is in Nigeria. We can do this. You can work with people. Just be nice. I remember when we first started, I said, take that break. And what are you thankful for? One thing I'm thankful for is that I can do this wherever, anytime, as long as people are ready to learn. I can do it from anywhere, from the very comfort of my home. I'm at home right now. We're all at home. Some people are on the road. You can learn anywhere. You know, COVID has taught us that, look, you can learn as long as you desire, and you can collaborate with anyone that will, you know, you can safely collaborate with people. So build up those teacher teams. I'm looking for a digital marketer. I put it out here now, and I'm sure you're going to get me somebody. It can be from Kenya. It can be from, you know, Malawi. I don't care. Just, you know, get me somebody. All right, Jeff, go ahead. Do you want me to start showing again?
Yeah, bring up the slides again, please.
Okay. Do I go on to slide 9 or still leave it on 8?
No, not yet. We're just gonna do the last. Go back to that same slide.
Oh, just a minute.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the one video there, or the one link there that says everything you need to know about teaching online that no one told you, is me just taking a lot of my different videos I've done over the last year and put them together in sort of a course. There's actually a link even to get into a Google Classroom class that lists everything and walks you through a series of exercises to get you thinking about things. Okay, so we've touched on this a bit, this last part here. Tracy has talked about doing things in little chunks. I'm going to talk about it as Lego blocks, right? Like really think about your online lesson as Lego blocks. And this is also makes it easier to share with each other, because then instead of here's a whole lesson, oh, I need to change something. Okay, I need to start over again. Do everything in little Lego blocks. And so if you need to change one thing, it's just easier to change one little piece or one video as opposed to change your entire lesson, right? So do things in Lego blocks, which is a great way to then break down your time. Now, the interesting thing here, and someone brought it up very early in the question about verifying some sort of an assessment. So I'll talk about one example, and then this will give Tracy some chance to think about how he would maybe do this with some younger students. But so the idea of verifying, and so I'll actually talk about one of the questions that we were going to look at later, but I'll talk about it now, and that has to do with handwriting. So yeah, actually, yeah, go up, yeah, go to the next.
There's a question here that students that are not ready to learn, even after motivating them, how do you engage them virtually? Do you want to?
Well, I don't know how you can. Like if okay, so and I'm not sure how this idiom translates, but we have the saying in the West, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. However, when somebody, usually a teacher, says that to me, I say, well, that depends on how much salt you give them along the way. So if you're walking with the horse and you're giving them a lot of salt to lick on, by the time they get to that water, they're going to drink, okay? So I think it's more a matter of what are you defining isn't ready to learn? Is that an emotional thing? Is that a cognitive issue? Is that a social issue? Is it an economic issue? You know, we as teachers, we face these all the time in our classrooms, but the student is usually still there. If they're not, then it's really obvious something's going on. But the student is usually there, but we see a change in behavior. So we start asking about what's going on, or we start picking up things and we figuring it out. That is much harder to do online. because it's easier to either turn off your camera or to try and fake it for a while online. So whoever put in that comment, can you define a little bit more about what you mean by doesn't want to learn?
Or do you want to use your mic? You can also use your mic.
Yeah, if someone wants to, whoever put that comment in, if they want to just tell us a little bit more about what they meant. I saw that, but I didn't see who it was.
Let me see if I can get that person back.
But while we're doing that.
Kukoyi, can you can unmute your mic and tell us what, I think he's secondary school. That's high school students. He's in a high school.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, I'll come back to context. This is the group that I excel at. I've taught younger students, but high school and college, I just excel at. And part of it is because I was the kind of high school student that most of you would hate. Yes, Juliet, go ahead.
Okay, you know, sometimes, just like you said something very important, what level of emotional bank account do you have with the children you're teaching before the pandemic? Sometimes a child will not want to learn, but the love, the passion, the way you have treated this child along the way can actually make the child learn because of you. So I tell the teachers that work with me, first of all, can this child trust you? Have you been able to get this child to trust you? This online, for example, even before the classes started, I made everybody, call the parent. If the child doesn't have a phone, call the parent of this child, ask that you speak to this child. What are you going through this time? Can you share with me? Can we talk about it? Let's find a way of getting across to you. And after that, from time to time, send a little chat. So when the online lesson started, the teachers, every weekend, I don't mind spending the recharge card, but every weekend, ask the child, where did I not do it well after the week's lesson? How do you think I can do for it to work better for you? But get the feedback. So when you get the feedback, we sit down, analyze the feedback and see, was the teacher talking too much? Did you get fun videos? Did you share slides that were funny? Did you activate your whiteboard for the child not to feel bored? What are the techniques that you use in teaching? Because sometimes we are quick to point that the child does not want to learn. Meanwhile, we are the ones that are not looking out for better ways to make these children learn. We want to behave as if we are teaching them offline. We want to behave as if we are in school. So you can't, no. We need to go out of our way to find out. Like I use Microsoft Teams, but I didn't see any assessment techniques in Microsoft Teams. I had to go look for a CBT that is rich, a CBT that would allow me to make the children match the object, drag, draw, and all that. That's how I landed in GoFormative. So I had to look out. So sometimes the children not learning, it's relative. It might not be the child's fault. It might be that you are just boxing the child.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
I have a comment here that I want to read for everyone to listen to. Where is it now? Oh dear. Did I lose it? I was asking him to. Okay, it says, an academically challenged student I knew scored 100% in assessment after an online learning period. How can the teacher react professionally to this, because it did not appear he did the test himself. Mm.
Okay.
That's a very tricky one.
Well, it sort of yes and no. And here's the interesting thing. So for there's there's all kinds of weird tech. I'm going to talk about this from 3 or 4 different angles. So with language learning and language testing, like international English testing, there's all kinds of different technologies that groups are starting to try and use. So I know Cambridge is now starting to do some sort of, you need to be at a computer that the camera is on so that they can see that you are the student who's actually answering the question and speaking in the question. So they're using sort of the camera to show who it is that is doing it. So that's one way that a lot of new testing technologies are. Before I go on, Juliet, awesome stuff. That was some excellent comments, and we will come back to jump on what you said there. Tracy's smiling as well, so we will come back to some of the stuff you said. But just to deal with this, so that's one way. So a second way, and now I'll talk about what I was going to talk about before, and the question you have in the next slide, but we won't worry about it. We'll get to it now anyway, is about a young child and handwriting. So how can you look at it? So it's the last question here. How can you, one, view someone's handwriting, two, know it is them and not someone else doing it for them, or three, and this is the real killer one, it might be the child who's actually writing it, but in the background is the parent saying the word in the sentence so that they're writing it properly. Okay. A number of years ago in the Philippines, I did a massive online English assessment, and there was a speaking portion of it. And it was hilarious. This is for call centers, so it was young adults, but it was hilarious how some of the people who were doing the audio, we had no video with it, but we're doing the audio, I could actually hear someone next to them speaking what they thought was quietly in their ear while the person was then repeating it, right? It was hilarious. But they thought they were tricking us into not doing that. Anyway, so for handwriting, let's talk about a couple of things. If it's a Zoom situation, can it be a matter of, well, my handwriting is atrocious, but can it be a matter of, I am writing a simple sentence and then I am literally going to hold it up to the camera for the teacher to see. And maybe I go along one at a time, this student, this student, this student, this student. That's one way. Another one would be if I'm given a homework exercise. This is asking a little bit of the parent. However, maybe it's a matter of taking a video of the student who's actually writing. Yes, the parent may have them practice 50 times before they actually take the video, but still it is the student who is doing it and is taking the short video and sending it to you, right? Which is still a little bit better than just taking a picture, because anybody still could have written it, right? So I think the issue of verification is a key point here that has no quick answer and will not probably for the next year or two. It is just getting so hard. Now, there are for high school and college students, there's a number of plagiarism new softwares that are being added on to everything else. So you can quickly see if they are plagiarizing from somewhere else, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking now about younger learners who are having to do some sort of task. Is it them doing it? Or even high school students, is it them doing it? And if it's not, how are we verifying? So going back to that specific situation, I guess what I would probably do is if sort of a red flag went off for me, I would probably ask for not necessarily a retest, but here's another task that's slightly different that requires the same knowledge to do it or the same skill to do it, that I want you to do with me live, one-to-one Zoom or one-to-one Skype or whatever it is, and do it right in front of me. And I want you to position the camera so that I can see down on the desk or pull back enough so that, whoops, don't drop, pull back. Now I'm going to go like this, pull back enough so that I can see you as the student actually doing the work, or better yet, have them actually take this and then talk to you and explain what they've done, and can they explain it as well as they've written it? And if not, then you know your concern was probably justified. Tracy, any ideas on how to verify assessments for younger learners?
So
before Tracy makes that comment, I want us to also look at it. Lemchi is saying that I wish he could post it online for everyone. And please, let's all share your views together. He says, I think every child wants to learn, but that depends on the teacher. The teacher needs self-motivation and motivation of the child. Motivations have to be extrinsic and extrinsic. Good comments. Please post them onto everything. Just click on everything and not privately to me. And it will definitely show for everybody to read. Thank you. Tracy, go ahead.
So I think with illustrators, I think there's some form of hardware that they have where you could draw things and it could show up on your screen. I particularly just look forward to having, that's why I say when you asked the question about what were the challenges, I thought it was resources. I think if we could have those kind of hardware, I know an educational website I love, Twinkle. I know they have have a program where the children could practice the writing, following the writing. So if we kind of had the hardware where as the child, the hardware, the pen and the tablet or stuff, where the child could be writing, and at the same time the teacher could see like how we share screens. Yeah. So I do look forward to that kind of I do look forward to discovering that kind of technology and add-ons. I think that will make it
there are what you're just talking about. I just remembered that there are some. I will try and look for it if I can still find it in my my file. I remember, there's some kind of handwriting software. There are handwriting softwares. Initially they were printable, but now I think they're trying to develop them into, online practice, so that the children can actually, just like they do the drawing, they can actually practice the writing right there.
You would need the hardware for that.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not the same when you're using a mouse to move about
to do it, and
yeah. Right. Still need the hardware.
Mm-hmm. All right, Mrs. Ugu, just before we go on, Jeff, Mrs. Ugu has something else to share with us. Yes.
Okay, concerning the question of a child that the child's ability scoring 100%. Okay, what I did was, before we started these online classes, I know that those kind of things were bound to happen. So I had a meeting with my parents. I had an online meeting with the parents. And what did I do? I make you understand the essence of the assessment, not necessarily to fail or pass the child, but to give me a feedback on what to reteach, how to reteach, and what to expect. So you helping the child is trying to tell me that this child understands, meanwhile the child doesn't. And you have paid fees for this. So are you actually helping this child or killing this child? So by the time I had the meeting and I explained to them the reason behind the assessment, not necessarily for a child to come first or to come last, but for a positive feedback for us to work on. So the parent became my greatest ally in finding out whether the child is cheating or not. Because there are various ways to cheat. It could necessarily, sometimes it might not be the adult in the house. The child can also open a Google and decide to search for the answer there. The child can actually do that. It might not be an adult. So when those kind of thing happens, you will see the mothers being the one, because once I start the text, the first thing I say is, oh, remove all textbooks and everything. As you're putting on your camera, I am seeing what you're doing. I am seeing all this and that. But the children, sometimes they know better that you cannot have a general viewing of more than 9 people at the same time. You have to scroll. Yeah, they know. So you have to scroll to find out whether
their phones anyway.
And you can, that is it. You can't. So because they know, I have already, and I've also made the children to understand. You see, sometimes the purpose of education is what level of morality have you also inculcated? While you're teaching these children, what level of morality have you made them? Do they understand what integrity is all about? I'm not trying to say that you get 100%, but when you have like 90-something% understanding, they will report others to themselves. An incident happened recently during the assessment, and it was the children that said, oh, can you look at it? This child is cheating because on GoFormative recorded that this child is opening Google because the child copied an answer and GoFormative picked it from the site where the child and wrote plagiarism. So by the time that child, and the teacher is now saying, oh, I know you took this from this site, please don't do that. So the child has a mindset that this my teacher can see everything.
Yeah.
This my teacher knows everything. So I'd rather respect myself. So sometimes it's, yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. That was very good. And I just put some of the things she just talked about on the chat. Okay, Jeff, go on.
Well, I'll go back to what I said in the very beginning about rethinking fundamentally what we're doing here. So what is the real purpose of an assessment? You know, like back in the classroom, we had this system in place. If you look at one of my videos, these systems are like 150, 200 years old that we're still using, okay? Even though society and technology and the workforce has changed so much, the basic system of how we're doing education is decades old. So what's the real purpose of an assessment? Are we testing knowledge or are we testing learning? Learning is a change in behavior. It's a change in the neural pathways in the mind. Being able to regurgitate facts is not necessarily learning. That's test knowledge. That's not wisdom knowledge, okay? So what are we really wanting out of our assessments? So I'm currently in Thailand, as you heard, and I'm doing a lot of work at a vocational college. Now, some of the students at this college, their English is terrible, even though they've been at the school for now, they're in their 4th year. And I have very high expectations and standards, not on what they're going to be able to achieve, but on how much they need to learn. And so I know when I give them a task, I know exactly who is looking in their phone to Google Translate, because I know the sentence structure of what comes out of Google Translate. So when they start saying something, I'll just say, stop. You got that from Translate? Yes. And I've only been here a month, but they already know, going back to what Juliet said, the relationship I built with them, yes, this is face-to-face, but the relationship I built with them, they know they can't BS me, okay? So it's like, are you using Google Translate? Yes. Tell me in your own words what it means, okay? And so I think Juliet's right. How, I guess I'll put it another way. How online are you able to get across your personality and your persona, because that's what we are as teachers, regardless if we think we are or not. What is our persona as the teacher, and how online can I get across my personality to make that connection with the student, and or if it's a younger student, with the parent, right? So how are we using the technology? What is the personality? Are you even to the point where I'm amazed at, sorry, I'm just get around here, you silly camera. I'm amazed how many people are doing this kind of thing where they're actually looking down at their camera, like, you know what I mean? It's this concept of, now they think they're doing okay because maybe they've got, oh, come on, I know there's more core to this, there we go. They think they're doing okay because they're on their, this is a webcam, not a laptop. But people with their laptop, they're putting it back on an angle, and they think because their head's on an angle, they're actually looking like this. They don't realize they're looking down at the student.
Yeah.
Even something simple like that, of making sure you are at eye level, if not even a little under eye level, so that the student is feeling on an even keel. It's amazing how simple little tips and tricks like that can impact the entire mood and setting of your session. So, you know, so how personable are you online? So here's a quick poll question that I will do again into the general chat. What is one excellent technique, just in a few words, one excellent technique that you are able to connect with your students in the digital domain? So if everybody can just put one little thing. So for me, mine is this eye level thing with the camera. So give me some of your tips and tricks that you are using right now that is very successful in terms of connecting, emojis, yes, in terms of connecting with students. Actually, in one of my videos, I talk about how to use discussion boards, and emojis are a great way for in the initial class introductions to just try and introduce or communicate with emojis and see if people can understand it. So students, younger students or students are responding. Are they laughing about it? Question, prompt, and questioning, okay. Wow, lots of emojis. I should be an artist.
It's fun for the children.
Yeah, because I guess the age group, that shows the age group of most of us on this webinar.
Group.
If there are more emojis than and I guess it's the age that we are in. I guess it's even for the adult learners, it catches the attention. The phone.
You know, how many times in a day when you are texting someone are you using emoji, like,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You know, it's an interesting way, you know. So if you're, funny enough, if you're doing any sort of communications class,
even asking questions, like Oku is saying, constant prompts of the questions. I mean, I just send that. Sometimes I'm like, okay, chat does something right, and I just send, you know, GIF dancing.
Right. Yeah. The gifts,
it
right?
catches their attention. Yeah, I think we missed a comment here somewhere. I'm sorry. Okay, self-awareness of the teacher about the online learning environment, and his or her preparation will enhance or control online learning environments and students. Well,
yeah, because one of the again, sorry, I'll just keep mentioning my videos because it's really good stuff, actually. One of the comments I make in one of my videos is, if you've never done an online class, I mean, as a student, you need to do one. You need to get yourself in a student mindset. In other words, you need to understand the experience that your students are going through. So have one of your colleagues do your class before students do, if you're doing it online, like a flipped classroom or some self-study stuff. Or have you ever taken an online class? And what did you learn from that in terms of what was good and what was not? And how are you incorporating that into how you design your online classes? Right. So this is a huge thing that and this goes back to a lot of the comments that Juliet was making as well. You need to put yourself in the mindset of the user. And I know as teachers, we don't think much about the idea of customer service, but in essence, our students are the customers. And so how often do we put ourselves in the mindset of our students to really understand their perspective and point of view on what I, as a teacher, am doing? Thoughts or comments? Using people's course. Yeah, there's so much stuff out there. Khan Academy on YouTube. Man, if you're in maths or science or computer technology, is amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
You know, and that's again, I'll go back to that thing about the content creation. There's so much stuff out there. It's more a matter of putting the little Lego block pieces together in the order or the sequence that you want to get across the message that you want.
I also would like to put a one in there that you need to you need to be registered, be duly registered on those sites before you can use them. If not, you need to get permission to use them so that you don't get sued. Because I mean, after, I'm sure very soon, a lot of lawsuit cases are going to be coming up with content use without permission. Yeah, so you have to be very careful there. Just make sure you're either registered, to duly use it, or you obtain permission formally. But the best way is just register. Once you're registered, and sometimes pay a monthly token or something, subscription, you're good to go.
Even on that note, for creating some really interesting stuff, I now use a lot of Adobe products. Now, Adobe is not cheap, but for educators, it really is. Yes. So initially, if you go into Adobe and you want to get, so the current Adobe cloud, all of the Adobe, now Adobe is amazing products, but is a massive, massive learning curve for everything. So we're talking about Photoshop and Illustrator and Premiere Pro in terms of video editing, that kind of stuff. But as an educator, it's like about 30% of the cost. So the regular cost is about $50 US a month in sort of US dollars. But for educators, it's maybe around 15 or 20 a month. That gives you access to all of the Adobe, including the Adobe Pro PDF reader, which means you can pull PDFs apart, you can put them together, you can make them interactive. There's all kinds of interesting things you can do with certain Adobe products. And all you need to do is either if you have a school email, use that. I didn't have that. I just showed them my work permit, which was in Thai. I have no idea if they had anybody who could read it, but no one questioned it. And so I've been using the educator fees for the last year and a half, and it's excellent. Very, very inexpensive way to get to some of this stuff. So look for, a lot of these places have education pricing. So look for that, because it usually is a pretty big discount. Well, I'm just about talked out. Any other?
Let's continue and round up on the questions.
Well, we've talked a little bit about the second one, about how to use time. Okay. Oh, resources. Okay. Tangible resources. Tracy, I'll let you chat for a bit about this. What can parents find around the house or
Unmute
teachers
yourself, Tracy.
around the house to use as teaching material, learning material, especially for younger learners?
Everything, almost everything could be used. Empty containers could be used because most of the time we are making new things or doing a lot of craft. So almost everything could be used. Empty cartons, old old paper, old stuff around, anything could be used. So teachers could always, let parents know ahead of time what materials they might need to do a project, and do a video or a live video or a pre-video of what they could do with the materials, which would be in relation to what they're learning. So almost that's the fun part of being an early years educator. Almost anything could be used. You could scraps of material, things, everything around. I mean, as an early years educator, I find myself, and I think most of us are the same. We're constantly picking up things, and people are looking at us weird, like, what are you going to do with those things? So almost anything around the house could be used. So I think teachers in preparing for this just need to tell parents ahead of time so they're not disposing of these things because they don't see the need for those things. So if you tell the parents what the project you might be working on to achieve these objectives, and what materials they might need, and give them a timeline, like, okay, about this time we would need that for that, they could learn to save and recycle.
Yeah.
I could learn to save these materials. So yeah, that's the fun bit about working with younger children. Almost everything could be used in the house.
And that's a great
metal things. You obviously have to decide what things are safe for use too at the same time. Yeah, well, pretty much.
No, that's a great comment about using or communicating a lot with the parents there. I strongly suggest I don't have a specific link or two, but if you just go to Google and type in Montessori during COVID or Montessori at home, there's some great YouTube videos about how people are using, as Tracy just said, a lot of stuff around the house for counting, for volume, for or even things that can be structured in such a way that they can be used for like 10 different activities, the same thing, and I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is, oh, so we're just using this for this one thing. No, we're going to use that about 20 times. So please save a bunch of these, whether it's the containers for holding stuff, or whether it's old coins, or whether it's, whatever, but, or play money, how to make play money, how to make some of this stuff at home. I think the interesting thing here is, especially with younger learners, if you can get parents involved, I think they're going to love it because it's going to take them back to some things. They're going to feel like they are having a lot more interaction with their child's learning than they did when the child was going off to school, because they're there. And so I think that's sort of, there's not many upsides.
Ideally, that's how it should be. That's the intention. That's the goal. But we do still have a lot of challenges with parents. I remember as head of school, the school, we had just pretty much children below 5 years old, and we weren't giving homework. We're not giving assignments because, they were toddlers. But I insisted we have things like, projects. Yes, I used to call them mommy, daddy and me projects, mini projects. And you had to work on this within for a period of 2 weeks. And I still had one or two parents who were like nagging. Some parents are just a bit too not ready to, get involved. And that is one thing I keep stressing on. We really need parents. Parents really need to understand that educating their children is a partnership. When it comes to the assessment, when you're talking about parents doing things, it's your child. What do you want you can't be faking it with your own child. You know, so you can't be faking it with your own child. It's a partnership. We have to work together to make this happen. And luckily, in the early years too, we do a lot of observing. Assessment comes from a lot of observing. So we need to hear real and factual statements or feedback from parents. Who are you deceiving if you're not being true to what we are doing, you know? So we need parents' encouragement. We need them to continue to see that they're part of this. You know, they need to make time. I know parents too also are struggling at this time, managing their own professional work and then having to do homeschooling.
Yeah.
They are really, like, everybody's complaining, but it's still back to what it used to be, even when we're not online. Just make out a little time for your child. And what we are talking about sometimes could just be mere supervision. It could just be in the background, knowing what's going on, following them for that bit of time.
Well, if I come in there, I mean, now, I mean, there's a lot of webinars going on, you know, getting parents involved, you know, on parental involvement in their children's lives generally. I mean, COVID has been a wake-up call for a lot of parents, because they're discovering so many gory details, you know, about their children and about even themselves. So there's a lot of parenting, you know, training going on out there right now. And like Mrs. Ugu said, I mean, get your parents involved right from the beginning before you go online. I mean, do your sessions with them and let it be ongoing. Let the communication be ongoing. Let the Zoom parental meetings, you know, Google meetings with parents only. Let it be ongoing. Let it not just be a one-off thing at the beginning, middle, and the end. Let it be ongoing. Sometimes you can even plan a joint. For instance, I said to myself, one of the churches called me recently, and I said, I want parents there. I want parents sitting by their children, because we're going to have activities like Tracy just said, parents and me time, just me and my parents. Ask your children, or let your parent tell you your best self when you were your best self, just one. And you'll be shocked that some parents don't even know, because they've not been taking notes. Or when you were your best, ugliest self, your best self and your ugliest self. And you will get to, it's going to be a challenge. You know what I mean? Some parents will probably, and the children will be saying some things and they'll be looking at them, are you sure about that? You know, children can't, you know, lie, you know, something. So
they must be emotions.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're just going to give you away, you know. So PowerPoint to emails. Okay, I could do that. Please go on.
I'm going to
go on, Jeff.
pull all of this together, and so it's brought me back to last year when I was in Bangkok. I was teaching grade 4, 5, and 6 science, and so obviously this is face to face. However, a lot of the projects. Now, I'm not much of a Facebook guy, but Facebook groups can be quite useful. And each of the classrooms had their own Facebook group. And so a lot of the projects that I would send home, so classic grade 4 science is you get your bean and you put it in the pot and it has to grow over a few weeks, right? Yeah. But I gave them 3 beans, but I gave them 3 different places the pot had to go. So one was in the sun with lots of water, one was in the sun with no water, and one was in the shade. And so every week they had to do a short Facebook video that they would post on Facebook that talked about, here's this plant A, here's plant B, here's plant C, it's now this amount high, and da-da-da-da. And so you saw in the first week, the kids, so we're talking about verification and observation. In the first week we did that, obviously the few really with it kids were quite good. The others weren't that great. In week 2, everybody's game was up because of the first few kids. And so Sometimes it's the student who got better. Sometimes it's the parent who did a little bit of prodding to the student to get better, right? But by week 3, when they had to do their final, it was great. Now, some of the beans, because I did the same experiment, but in the class, and one of my beans never grew. And one of the students didn't fake it. She by week 3 is like, something's still wrong with all of my beans. Even the one in the sun is still not growing. So she, to her credit, didn't fake it, didn't go get another bean, didn't plant something else, just did the project as it was. Some of the other kids were laughing at her initially, and it was like, what? This is science. This is what an experiment does. And so now we need to find out why. And then they would look at, they're laughing at her. And then I'm saying, well, but here's my bean. Are you now going to laugh at me? There's no growth here. It was like, oh, yeah, you know what I mean? So there was like 20 teachable moments in that, but we were using the social media, Facebook, as a way for them to present. And we used Facebook for a lot of things, for artistic things, for music things, for short dramas, for presentations. So it is one way, sometimes individual, sometimes as a small group. So social media is one way to see a verification of students doing certain things and projects or making something. So if part of their science is to make pancakes, you've got your science kitchen classroom thing there, and you're showing students how to make pancakes, and now they have to take a video of them making pancakes again. Maybe they've done this 20 times and the kitchen's a mess, but they finally get it right, and that's the video the parent sends in. But still, it's that whole process of showing that it's them doing, it's them mixing, it's them cooking. Yes, the parents there supervising, obviously. But there are many different ways with which we can use even existing media and social media to verify or to observe what students are doing.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff. That was good. Very fantastic, use of social media there. Okay, we'll go on to the next slide. Tracy, over to you. Can we have poll 3 up, please? Go ahead, Tracy.
How many, please? Okay. Sorry. Don't have it up yet. I'm sorry, I don't have it up yet.
Jeff, can you please go on, share the poll 3.
The what?
Poll 3, the third poll.
Mindful moments.
Yeah,
I don't have that.
Moments, yeah.
What are you going to change? How are you going to change? It's up already.
No, there's a poll. There's another poll.
No, I don't have access to that. Who set it up?
I'm not sure he's there.
Well, maybe we'll do it the old-fashioned way. So, while they're playing around trying to find the Zoom poll, I'll have you do it in my chat room poll. So based on everything you have heard in the last couple of hours, moving forward, what is your next step? So I guess we're talking about what or how or when. So which of these is going to impact you, I guess, the most, or what's your biggest, maybe here's a better way. What's your biggest takeaway from the last 2 hours? Is it something that you are going to change? Is it something approach you are going to change, which is the how, or the when? You know you need to make a change pretty quick. So I'll just use those 3: the what, the how, and oh, there we go. Okay.
Okay, so
Has it come now?
Yep. Yep.
That's come up. Yes, that's come up. So oopsie, I lost it. Oh, sorry, yeah, that's.
We got the minimize
Would every-
distractions, use an appropriate LMS, reduce screen time, engage students more productively, manage time effectively, prioritize subjects, or be innovative. So is there just the one question?
Yes, this is just the one question.
Okay,
Oh, gosh.
and can we see the results? Who's got the results?
Results, please.
I'm not done.
Okay.
So while they're playing with that, from my perspective, it's number 2.
Me too.
I really want people to think about their approach to education and their approach to the classroom, given the new normal, because the new normal is going to be with us for another 18 months. People think I'm nuts, but I'm pretty dead on. The new normal is going to be with us till at least the end of 2021. So not get used to it, but start really rethinking. If you had to do this longer term, how do you need to, 1, make it easier for you, and 2, make it better for the student?
Okay. Thank you very much, Jeff. I'm grateful to have everyone on board. We're wrapping up now.
Okay. Oh, innovation.
You have
Okay.
something?
Yeah, so the results just came up.
Okay.
So innovation, 60%, engaged students more productively, 50%. So those are the 2 main ones. Everything else is quite a bit lower. So be innovation, be innovative, and engage students more productively. Those probably are 2 sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Okay, right? So
Yeah.
Awesome. And again, then I'll do my quick advertisement. Go and look at those videos about engagement are only 4 to 5 minutes long. You can pick and choose how you want to look at them, but I think you'll find them. They're short and fast and really make you think. So.
Okay, let me see if I can get that survey now.
Good. Yeah, so really, again, I'll keep going back to the philosophy stuff. I think we're at a time when we're really thinking about what is education and what's it really supposed to be. And we know a lot of it has not been effective. So maybe this is a great time to throw out all the ineffective stuff and just keep the good stuff. Whether school districts agree with us or not is another story and another video. We will see. Oh, okay.
Jeff, I can't seem to get the survey up.
Well, it's popped up. Is this will you be willing to pay for your professional self-development? Is that the question?
Oh yeah, please. That's
Yep. So that's up. At least it's up for me. I don't know about for others.
It's up for me
I don't
too.
know why you're having so much problem. This usually works pretty good.
Maybe
Okay,
it's
so
the connection.
people could look at that and then answer appropriately.
Was that the poll?
Well, there was one there. It just said, would you be willing to pay for
Your professional self-development.
professional development?
Okay, and what other question? Was that the only question?
There was only
Yes.
the one.
Oh,
No, and that's why I was suggesting you may actually want to do, this is where the poll is not good. this is where the Google Forms is actually much better because you can answer
Yeah,
multiple questions and it gives you more detail.
I was trying to get that up.
No, you won't get it up. What'll happen is you need to send everybody the link and they will do it individually.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not-
Oh no, that definitely that was not the one actually. That was not the
Okay.
one. That's still the technology thing that I'm still I'm also still battling with. That's also the technology I'm also still battling with. Anyway, I think we should just wrap it up.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all for attending. Thank you for the great questions, the great impact. I truly hope we were at least a little bit helpful to you tonight. I see some of you have already gone and subscribed. Thank you very much. Sorry.
You can also watch a replay.
Spend a lot of time making YouTube videos.
Oh yeah, tell me all about it.
Thank you. Please subscribe and hit like. Thank you. Please subscribe and hit like. It's just second nature now. Sorry.
And I would also like to say that you can watch, you can watch this session again on YouTube. It will be posted immediately after this. Technical support, Sam, please post it immediately after we're done. I don't think we need, just check if we need to do any editing because sometimes there are those, itches here and there, but definitely check from tomorrow and you'll be able to watch, online for free. You don't have to pay for this one. There's some that you have to pay for. Like the last session was is unlisted, but if you can make a request for that, but you have to pay a little token because some of the things that Jeff was talking about was, reflected on that. And then please take a good care of yourself and take good care of your students. Remember that it is the man that retreats from fighting today that can fight tomorrow. It's not all the time that you put yourself out there. Just take a little time, reflect, retreat, try and do more of checking on yourself. Always go back, check on yourself. Thank you very much. And just a minute before you all go, I would like to pray over you if you do not mind. These are days that a little prayer goes a long way for everyone. So if you do not mind, I would like to pray over everyone. Just give me a minute. Let me stop sharing. Thank you very much. And if you could put on your videos, let's see you. Let's see you. Just a minute, or your profile picture. Please just take a minute and let's see you. And I always want to do this as well. Thank you very much, everybody. I would like to take a picture. So let's see you. I don't want to see your names. I want to see your faces. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And it could be your profile picture. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. And like I said, I would like to pray over everyone. These are hard times, I know, and these are challenging times. But, as educators, we just need to take good care of ourselves. We need to that's one thing I always say, that taking care of yourself now is good business, because without taking care of yourself, you can't take care of the next person. So take care of yourself, and I pray over you and I bless you in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. The Lord be with you, the Lord bless you, and all that you do, I pray that you prosper in Jesus' name. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.